I must confess, I never imagined that you would be able to pursue me this far.
Who pursued? You're just standing there.
I don't mean to belittle your skills, Professor, but you far surpassed my expectations. Inform the troops. Destroy anyone who sets foot in the throne room.
So I think what that does is I think it opens all the doors. Okay, and everything is anchoring forwards. Okay, that's what I thought would happen once we got into the throne room. So I guess now is time to focus our assault on Edelgard. I kind of like how generic female, I keep wanting to call them War Masters, but no, Mortal Savants look. Yeah, everything is now aggroing. Dudu, please don't be an idiot. Yep, the big beasts are coming. Going for violin. Okay, the aggro line said Ferdinand. That makes me very worried. And you decide to be a moron. Okay, good. I am Edelgard's elite anti-Dudu squad. I will defeat Dudu. Do not worry, Kling. Nothing. Oh, wow, those reinforcements are pretty intense. Thank you, I was hoping you'd do that, actually, because that frees Leonie.
More proof of my loyalty.
Okay, so, I could really use Fortify right about now. And this is about where we need to hightail it into the throne room now, because the throne room's probably the safest spot here at this point. Glad that he's kind of blockading this area, though. Okay, so at this point,
not survive.
I really want to get rid of those two. This is where Stride would really come in handy, but unfortunately, I do not have that at this point. I think I actually do need to either break that thing's armor or take it down now. That will at least freeze the other... I almost called it a War Master again.
Let's do our part. In this situation...
So I guess right now, I mean, I hope I don't get too interrupted by gameplay tangents at this point, but... it's time for verbal essay on Edelgard Part 3. Because you knew it was coming. So, yeah. Like, at this point, you know, most people right now would know that I don't particularly, you know, like Edelgard's methods, so I guess I don't need to apologize to anyone right now, because, you know, if you are diehard fans of Edelgard, you're probably not watching this series anymore. Like, at this point, I actually haven't, even, like, edited or uploaded Chapter 11 or Chapter 12 yet, so... yeah, I have no idea how people reacted to my thoughts there, but... it's kind of interesting because, like, my views on Edelgard over the course of this whole game and this whole story are kind of the exact opposite of Dimitri's in a way. Like, Dimitri started out with just complete blind loathing towards her for kind of not the right reasons, and then eventually developed to realize that, you know, maybe she still has her own point of view, but that doesn't mean that we have to accept that and find that acceptable. Those sound like the same thing, but they're not entirely the same thing.
Not for myself, for everyone.
So for me, like, my initial reaction is, okay, yeah, obviously Dimitri has the wrong idea, obviously there's more to Edelgard than it seems, and I don't like the fact that he's gone blind and completely vengeful. And you know, even throughout the time skip, I was thinking, like, I mean, you know, when Edelgard first declared war on, like, everyone else in the world, that was annoying, because, like, I knew that she'd be kind of brutal in her methods, and I knew she was against the church, but I didn't expect her to be the instigator of a world war. That's really one of the things that kind of tipped the sympathy...
make a difference?
Like, over the lack of sympathy line for me, is I just cannot... absolutely cannot side with someone who is the aggressor in a war of conquest. Like, that's just something that's kind of a personal moral event horizon to me. So, and I know that, like, you might think, oh, well, then why aren't you, like, why don't you hate Fate's conquest? Honestly, like, there's a difference between hijacking a war that's already in progress and actually starting one. That's part of why I don't hate Corrin and Azura's actions on conquest as much as most people do. So yeah, that's one thing. If I mount up now, yeah, I can still go a bit further. I just would really like to pick off all of those Grimoires. No, that's probably worth it. So yeah, like, that definitely didn't endear me to her, but I was still thinking, you know what, maybe there's more to it. I don't like the way Dimitri's acting. Hopefully Dimitri will get over it. And Dimitri did get over it, but then Edelgard did what she does in that kind of semi-peace talk between her and Dimitri, where she basically flat out said, no, I do not regret for 1 second all these deaths the war caused. And that, to me, was just the moment where I was just like, no. Like, I cannot condone what you're doing now. And that's where, like, yeah, like, where Edelgard became... Where the heck is Petra right now? Oh, she's all the way up there. That's the point where it kind of became, like, Edelgard is one of the very few fictional characters who's ever evoked genuine anger in me. And at this point... And here's the thing that I really don't like, because I don't like that I feel this way, but honestly, like, my views on her can be summed up as actual hatred right now. Like, I do feel genuine hate towards her and what she's doing. And that scares me. I don't like that I am capable of that kind of emotion. But I mean, I guess maybe I should be praising this game's story for the fact that it made me feel such a strong emotion, but, like, yeah, it's just, see, I don't like that, but on the other hand, I was recently watching a video, rewatching a Let's Play of Tales of Symphonia, and there's a line that Lloyd says a bit later on that I just find, it kind of sums up how I feel right now. And I just think it's really interesting. It's that he says that Colette, who's this character who's like really, really optimistic, who's all like, let's all be happy and be friends, yay. And he's like, Colette is always saying we should all just get along. But, so this is Lloyd, the main character talking, after he's undergone a bit of character development. He says, but I don't think everyone can get along. There will always be people who make you angry. It's just an interesting line, and I do feel like that's kind of how I feel about Edelgard in a way. Like, there's a difference between understanding the reasons for someone committing certain actions and actually condoning them. Like, I can see where what Edelgard's trying to do. I can see where she's coming from, but I still don't, you know, I still can't condone starting a world war. I still can't condone, like, the fact that she's willing to kill any number of innocents all for the sake of an ideal world. And it's, you know, an ideal world by her definition too, you know, and I don't think that's going to match everyone else's definition of an ideal world. And when that happens, you know, there's going to be conflicts. That's why I don't think that she'll lead to a perfect solution. And I don't think that, you know, her methods will result in perfect peace in Fodlan. Even though her past ending makes it look that way.
You lost that one.
But yeah, it's like, to me that's kind of how I sum it up. Like, there will always be people and ideologies that you can't accept, and the only time it becomes a problem is when you start killing people because they don't share the same ideology as you. Which to me is kind of what Edelgard's doing, but like, yeah, like to me, that's where it becomes a problem. That's like a big thing of Tales of Symphonia as well. Like, Lloyd acknowledges that, like, Lloyd's character development is realizing that the designs are not black and white evil, and what they're doing, you know, there are reasons why they're doing what they're doing, but that still doesn't make what they're doing right, and that still doesn't mean you have to think what they're doing is right. And, like, Kratos, a character in that game, basically says that Lloyd has grown a lot because he's able to realize that kind of thing. It's, you know, being able to find your own personal sense of morality, which is something that I don't know, I feel like I'm just kind of, this game is helping me discover things about myself in a way. I just, again, like, Edelgard does a few things that just cross the line to me. And, like, it's like, this is weird, like, I know it's a case of, obviously, you know, I'm not saying that I condone someone who is just blatantly evil and kills for fun, because obviously that's still awful. But I started to realize that to me, I'm actually even less okay with someone who kills and believes it's genuinely for a good cause, and genuinely thinks what they're doing can be justified just because it leads to a better world in the end, and that any amount of death will serve those ends. That, to me, is still marginally, but yeah, is even worse than just doing bad things because you want to and because you find it fun. Again, not that I condone that, of course, that's awful, but I just find it even harder to tolerate someone who does a whole lot of horrible things and justifies them all, saying, yeah, I don't believe this is morally wrong in the slightest, because I'm doing it for the sake of a better world. That's what separates Edelgard and Dimitri to me. Dimitri, at his worst, at least admits he's become a monster. He at least admits that what he's doing is wrong, and he learns to develop out of it. But that's the other thing, like, I don't really feel like possibly a little bit maybe on Crimson Flower, but even then, like, so one thing that I will say is that people were probably telling me, play Crimson Flower, play Crimson Flower. To be honest, there are some things that Edelgard does on Crimson Flower that actually make me dislike her even more, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I feel like even there, she doesn't really develop all that much. She's still pretty much the same person she was when she became the Flame Emperor. Someone who's willing to cause any amount of death and destruction for the sake of her ideal world. And yeah, there are issues with Rhea, like, overall, but I just feel like she's let herself become everything she hated about Rhea and more. And I wouldn't say she doesn't realize that. I would say she does realize that and thinks it's okay. And that's the thing that I have an issue with. So, the Crimson Flower things that I was going into. The first one is that on that route, Edelgard comes across as very racist against dragons. At this point, it's probably not a spoiler to say that Seteth and Flame are part dragon, because it's kind of obvious right now. I can probably afford to go ahead and say that. So, yeah, Seteth and Flame are part dragon. And I can understand Edelgard having an issue with Rhea holding political power, but apparently at some point in Crimson Flower, she basically straight up says, I don't believe that their kind, like Seteth and Flame, should ever be allowed to hold political power. Like what, just because of their bloodline? Just because they were born as part dragons or full dragons? Because guess what? How is that any different to saying people who weren't born with crests don't deserve to hold political power? How is that any difference? It's just like, I feel like Edelgard is a bit of a hypocrite in terms of her methods overall.
She did the trick.
Like, she wants to create a world free of prejudice, and yet she's prejudiced against dragons. And unlike other people's prejudice, like Ingrid's with the people of Duska, which she learns to grow out of, and things like that, and Dimitri's blind hatred of Edelgard, Edelgard's never called out on her prejudice against dragons, at all. Like, it's treated as totally fine because Rhea somehow turned into a cartoon villain out of nowhere, so it's okay. It's just, it's I don't know. The second thing about Crimson Flower that doesn't exactly endear me to Rhea is the fact that when she finally fights Dimitri, Dimitri makes a perfectly valid point of, must you continue to conquer, continue to kill? And admittedly, Edelgard's response was apparently very much botched in the translation, and that in Japanese, she was more trying to say to Dimitri, are you going to continue to fight a losing war just to sate your bloodlust? Which is a valid point, but in the English version, she says, must you continue to reconquer, continue to kill in retaliation? And then she just says, like, I won't stop. I will stop at nothing for the sake of a better world. And just, yeah. It's like, I don't really think she's any nicer on Crimson Flower. Like, you know, they do throw in a couple of adorable waifu moments, which, yeah. Unlike some people, I'm actually not against Edelgard because of those moments. Like, they're a bit weird, I will admit, but I don't... That's not entirely a deal breaker for me. Because, you know, like, if people want to marry her, they can do that. Like, I don't honestly have anything against that. As much as I don't particularly like the way Bernadetta's, why don't you even have aggro lines? Like, the way Bernadetta's moe-ness is semi-fetishized. I still have nothing against people who marry Bernadetta. And part of me almost feels like the Crimson Flower route only exists just for the sake of people who want to marry Edelgard, because that's the other thing, like, Crimson Flower is shorter than the other routes by a long margin, and has very little in the way of CG cutscenes. And it's interesting because, like, there's a case to be made about maybe Edelgard was originally written as a straight-up villain, and they only put... You know, I just realized something? That beast can't even get through the door, right? It's too narrow. I don't even need to worry about that beast at all anymore. It's totally locked off from this half of the map because that doorway is too narrow for it. But, like, yeah, that's... Oh, of course you're attacking. When the aggro line said no. But, like, yeah, I almost wonder if she was just written as a straight-up villain, and that they only added that route because some people in the dev team thought that, you know, for the sake of players who like her cause, we should at least give her a route. Or, you know, the cynic part of me says we need to appease the people that we marketed Edelgard towards as a waifu. But...
Be careful.
But you could also make a case for Silver Snow being rushed. Because on that route, you know, it's very similar to Golden Deer, just with less Claude. So, there's a case to be made for both Black Eagle's routes being a little rushed and unfinished, which unfortunately, yeah, is very unfair to people who like the Black Eagle students. So, I will say, like, I'll probably say this later on, but I'm actually really, really glad that Crimson Flower exists. I mean, I suppose I am glad that Crimson Flower exists because, you know, it gives people who like Edelgard something. But that's not what I meant to say. What I meant to say is I'm glad Silver Snow exists, because it exists for the sake of people like me who don't mind the Black Eagle students, but don't see themselves ever siding with Edelgard. I'm glad you have the option. I'm glad you're not forced to side with her if you picked Black Eagles just because you like their students. Because I know there are quite a few people in the early release period who just basically straight up noped out of siding with Edelgard once they found out what she was really like. But I do have a couple of issues with how Crimson Flower is presented. That's another reason why I'm, again, not entirely 100% on the Edelgard bandwagon. The main issues that I have with Crimson Flower is that...
I do this for all of us.
Okay, let me explain it this way. Azure Moon has a nuanced portrayal of Dimitri. Sure, Dimitri turns good in the end, but you actually see his absolute worst side on Azure Moon. The scene where he snaps and just, like, snaps the neck of a few soldiers just to get to Edelgard and just goes completely insane, only on his own route. You don't even get to see that on the other routes. So you actually see Dimitri, like, Azure Moon depicts Dimitri, like, you see Dimitri at his worst as well as at his best. So the player is able to form, like, a more objective, nuanced opinion on him. And I can definitely see some people coming out of the Azure Moon route not liking Dimitri very much. Additionally, as much as I say, like I said, I admitted that I feel hatred towards Edelgard, but I don't think Edelgard is depicted as a cartoon villain on that route either. Some people say, oh, Edelgard gets turned into a cartoon villain on that route. I don't think so. Well, maybe... Arguably, she is in that cutscene right before the final battle, where she turns into a monster and says, only I can rule the world. Yeah, that was a little bit pushing it, but before that, she just came across as someone who has a vision for the world, sticks to it, and that vision is going to result in a lot of dead people. she's honestly the most nuanced, well-written Emperor character in all of Fire Emblem to me. And I don't think the Blue Lion's route depicts her as cartoonishly evil. And I like that. The same cannot be said for how Rhea is depicted on the Crimson Flower route, and that's the main issue that I have. There are a lot of people who are saying, I don't know, I'll finish my rant and just shut up and attack Edelgard eventually, but I want to get this out of the way. You know what, maybe I should actually start attacking Edelgard now just to see if, because I'm curious, do you have a special boss conversation? Oh boy, that's not going to end well if you crit.
This has nothing to do with where you were born. That we are fighting now is only a result of the choices you've made.
Edelgard, it's a result of the choices you've made. You're the one who started this war.
So I'm going to give that the response it deserves. I will crush you with everything I have.
So this music that's playing now, I think I heard this when I was watching the Crimson Flower route's deaths. Because it's the battle theme for fighting against the house leaders, and post-time skip. Even though you do fight against Claude and Edelgard on Azure Moon, all chapters where you do so are with some other background music overriding it, so you never hear this on Azure Moon, unless maybe Claude gets attacked during Chapter 19? Anyway, I'm very disappointed that Ferdinand did not get a special boss conversation with Edelgard here. Because, like, really, like, he sees himself as, like, her rival. Uh-oh. Well, at least you didn't get the might bonus.
Fight to the very last.
Does Sedith get a special boss conversation?
Edelgard.
Yes.
Return Rhea. Release your grip on Fodlan.
If you strike me down, they will return. I cannot permit what you desire. You are a child of the goddess. You must not be allowed power over the people.
Yes! This right here! This right here! Right here! Edelgard is a racist. That is my point. Like, I get why she doesn't like Rhea, but she lets her opinion on Rhea cloud her judgment of the fact that Sedith is honestly... I think Sedith is the best leader of anyone in this game. Honestly, I actually think second best is Edelgard, weirdly enough. I know that I don't like her and her methods, but I do admit, I think Edelgard's a better leader than any of the other lords. I mean, Dimitri is so violent that he loses the loyalty of everyone on his side for half of his route, and Claude needs to leverage Violent's Crest of Flames just to even get half the alliance on his side. Edelgard at least has the charisma, she has a vision, she has the right amount of charisma to attract the right people to her cause. Like, I think she's actually genuinely good at leading. So that's a compliment that I can pay her. But Sedith just has so much wisdom to give. I love Sedith just as a character so much. He's just one of my favorite characters in this game. He is just one of the nicest people in the whole game. And he just has so much wisdom to give the people in supports. And, like, in the Azure Moon ending, I wish Sedith had become the new Archbishop, not Byleth. I honestly think Sedith would be a great leader. And Edelgard is blind to that because she's like, no, you're a child of the goddess. You don't deserve power. Again, Edelgard, how is that any different from the current system saying people without crests don't deserve to hold political power? Have you ever thought about that? It's actually one other thing I feel is with Edelgard representing the reverse Priestess Arcana due to her symbolism. The Priestess Arcana is all about intuition and listening to your inner voice, and that's another flaw that I feel Edelgard has. She genuinely doesn't think things through. She immediately jumps to the violent path, and yeah, it's interesting because her and Dimitri are not so different when it all comes down to it. It's just that Dimitri is capable of change, and Edelgard, at least on this route, isn't really. Don't move towards us, please. But yeah, I can't believe that was a very... Okay, we interrupt my ranting for, something weird. Those two beasts are now kissing. Kaiju Demonic Beast OTP. There will now be fanfics of these two demonic beasts that are currently making out with each other. I'm so sorry, like while this giant tragic battle is occurring, these two demonic beasts have found true love. I'm sorry. Okay. Anyway, but like back to that. Yeah, I didn't expect her to bring it up now, but just again, like seriously, why are you racist?
Guide me well.
Why don't you realize that Zenith is so much better than you would ever know. Like a comment on Zenith that I've actually seen is like someone said, and I kind of agree with this, like that there was a person in the comments who said, I didn't even expect to like Zenith, and now I love him. He's like one of my favorite characters. Oh, one-shotting Bernadetta. I've kind of given up on special boss conversations with Edelgard happening at this point. Maybe... Ooh, that's terrible. How many Divine Pulses do I have? 7. I mean, Edelgard is reasonably tough at this point. I might actually need to, hang on a second. Oh, no, wait, you don't have that. Who has the... Assembly? Yeah, I can... Oh, wow, how fitting that I can pull Edelgard off of her throne. That's actually very fitting. But... Yeah... I got Divine Pulses, so I guess I'll just see. Like, come on, you should have special boss dialogue, right? No? Really? Don't worry, that's not canon. I'll rewind that.
I'd hope.
That's not canon. Yeah, honestly, like, I was thinking, like, the one thing this route has over Golden Deer right now is you get, you know, all the Black Eagles characters, and you get to see their reactions to Edelgard, so I wish they had more special boss dialogue. I wish all of them got special boss quotes, because she used to be their house leader. I'd love to see how they'd all react. Particularly people like Ferdinand, Petra, maybe? Petra would have a pretty good reaction. Dorothea really should have more comments on fighting Edelgard here. She really should. So that's a little disappointing. I mean, of course, Violet's going to have one, but, you know. I guess I can get Violet in. You know what? I'll heal Zenith first. So, was there anything else? I think I've pretty much said my piece so far. Alright, that's it, Rhea on the Crimson Flower route. So, yeah. I know some people say it's kind of in character with what she does, with, you know, and I can, at this point I've kind of figured, I think I know why she's so unstable, but, and dragons in Fire Emblem, let's be real, dragons in Fire Emblem are not known, well, here I am being kind of racist, but, dragons tend to have very intense emotions, like, let's just say, so I can kind of see it, but on the other hand, yeah, I'm going to actually have you contribute to... Nope.
I will be there.
That's going to be bad. I really want to pull you off your throne, though. That would be amazing if I was able to succeed in doing that. But, like, I feel like Rhea's portrayal on Crimson Flower, she just goes... She goes insane and becomes a literal and figurative monster kind of instantly. And...
So, you're another of the goddess's vanguard. You don't have even a shred of self-awareness, do you?
Okay, you have special boss dialogue for Golden Deer, but not... Huh, that's weird.
Come at me, so that I may put you out of your misery.
Well, one thing that Edelgard also doesn't realize, this is actually one of the very few fictional churches, like in an RPG, where the goddess they worship is unambiguously real and unambiguously benevolent. Which is actually kind of refreshing for a JRPG, honestly.
Let's make this quick.
I mean, she's kind of dead right now, but... I mean, you know, at least she's... Again, like, I don't think there's any chance that Sothis was evil.
Put the plan into action.
I saw that one coming.
I'll back you up.
Well, if that doesn't work, this sure as heck isn't going to work. I really wanted to pull her off the throne. That would have been the most fitting way to do this. That would have been great. But now I really want Seta to get the final blow here. But I feel like my best chance of victory is Lysithea. Which is weird, because Lysithea is one of the... Like, Edelgard really sympathized with Lysithea, and Lysithea kind of sympathizes with her plight too, so that feels kind of bad to me, honestly. How well does Byleth do against you? Oh, he could just crit. If Byleth crits, this is all over, and I don't really want that. Because I honestly want Seta to finish this. I really, really want Seta to do this. Yeah, Byleth's probably going to crit, and if he does, I can't Divine Pulse my way out of that, so...
Professor, I suppose you think you can defeat me, is that right?
Interesting, she's kind of smiling there.
But I will never give up. Even if my arms and legs failed me, I would still find a way to move forward.
I'm so sorry, like, that just gives me mental images of her just shuffling or rolling forwards.
I will smash that false goddess and her minion into the ground. I will fight to free this world from her vile grasp.
Okay, this route is definitely emphasizing Edelgard's anti-goddess nature and anti-church nature a lot more. She's down, isn't she? I left with 1 HP. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Nice. Okay, yeah. I guess after all this, Byleth can't be the one to finish it, and that is fitting. Meanwhile, these two demonic beasts are still making out. I'm sorry. I mean, this kind of maybe would sort of be cool. I don't really see Bernadetta being the one to finish off Edelgard. That doesn't really make sense either. I think Seta should do it. Anyway, the thing about Rhea is that I guess I'll have more time to talk about Rhea later, especially if the final boss of this route turns out to be who I think it is. But it's just like, yeah, if you play Crimson Flower first, it permanently colors your perception of Rhea for the rest of the game. Whereas some could say that my perception of Edelgard has been colored by playing Blue Lions first. I don't really think so. I think I came to this conclusion on Edelgard on my own. I don't think Blue Lions depicts her as entirely evil. Like, her actions are just ones that I personally see as evil, but that's just me. And while, again, Rhea on Crimson Flower is, like, totally insane and basically a cartoon villain, and it does just kind of permanently color your perception.
Leave it to me.
You know what? Just because.
Apologies.
What was I gonna do? I was gonna do something else, wasn't I? There was something else I felt like I needed to... Oh, that's it! I'm gonna find that set of quote that I want to read out while I do this. Where are you? Here we go. So this is Sedith and Felix's support, which I'm really annoyed that I didn't get on the other brood, actually. He says to Felix, if you hate all those whose beliefs are different from yours, you will hate everyone eventually. People with exactly the same beliefs as you simply do not exist. You do not have to change your beliefs, of course, but you do have to accept that others feel differently. That's just... Sedith's very existence, I think, proves everything Edelgard thinks about the Church of Seros wrong. That's only my personal opinion, but yeah, that's basically how I feel. And yeah, let's do this.
It looks as though my path will end here. My teacher, claim your victory. Strike me down, you must. Even now, across this land, people are killing each other. If you do not act now, this conflict will go on forever. Your path lies across my grave. It is time for you to find the courage to walk it. If I must fall, let it be by your hand. I wanted to walk with you.
Okay, those heart ups were really mood whiplashy. I'm sorry, game, but yeah, that was. Please, that cutscene should have happened after stage complete, not before. Just saying. And bits of that cutscene were in the trailers. Now I realize, is that Silver Snow? I'm guessing that is Silver Snow only because no one else is present in that scene. Yeah. But just like, okay, so yeah, that was sad, and it's just, that's the thing, like Edelgard is someone that I was rooting for to maybe have a change of heart. That's the other thing, like, so I feel bad that she has to die like that, but on the other hand, like, saying, you know, all through this world people are killing each other, you started it! You started it. You're the one who wanted this. And she's the one who never wanted to back down. She had Rhea. Like, honestly, why didn't... Like, if she hated Rhea so much and wanted to remove Rhea from power, why didn't she just stop at capturing her? Why didn't she just stop there? Just say, I've got what I wanted. The tyrant is gone. Now we don't have to go to war anymore. But no, she kept trying to conquer everywhere else, so... It's just moments like that where the game tries to portray her as regretting everything, but it doesn't match up with her actions at all. Yeah. Like, it honestly reminds me, like, this is a weird tangent, but, like, I had an idea for a game, and, like... How she went out is very similarly to the idea I had for how, like, the Emperor of the invading empire dies, in that he lets your party kill him because he's basically like, well, you don't find out until after you do it, but he kind of does the whole boss fight with him to goad you into killing him, and then when you kill him, he says his last words are just checkmate, and he just falls. And what that is that he regretted the war going on for so long, so he intentionally set himself up to die by your hand to end the war. That was an idea for a game that I had a long time ago when I was a high school student, but I feel like that's kind of like... I didn't get the sense that Edelgard was intentionally setting herself up to die just to end the war there. I feel like she only did because she lost, and I'm sorry, like, yeah, I may as well continue to this, because there'll probably be more cutscenes.
At last, it is over. Now we must find Rhea.
This is definitely, like, one of the most hardcore philosophical episodes that I've ever done of any series. Even Persona, which is kind of surprising. But, I don't know, yeah, I just had to get this stuff off my chest.